Let's talk about photographing artwork. I photographed canvases, art paper, framed photos, really anything. This lighting technique and editing seems to work for everything, so let's get into it. At the end, we are going to talk a little bit about Lightroom and Photoshop and my process there to pull things in, get the best look, get everything nice and straight, and just deliver the best product. We're even going to talk about removing backgrounds. So here we go. We started off in my studio. If you see there, I have a Westcott constant light, and it is not pointing down at the photo, it's actually pointing towards the background, and I've used these V-flats to bounce light around. I found this is the best technique to not get a lot of glare on those raised paint areas. This just gives it a nice creamy, dreamy look. I'm not super worried about how bright I get the background because I do have my techniques for that, which we will go into in post-processing. So here I just take a photo, I try to get it as accurate as possible over top. I ended up retaking that one because hard to shoot while you are holding a phone. All right, so we're gonna talk a little bit about editing images. Of course, this is the photo that I took. You'll notice there are some shadows where the paper was raised up a little bit, but for the most part, it's pretty clean and pretty even all over. And as I did the lighting, I mentioned before about not wanting to have too much glare coming on here, especially with oils and acrylic that have some texture on it. You can lose some detail if that light is hitting directly at it. So we want to be able to show the texture, but not hit it so hard with direct light that we are losing some of the detail to extreme highlights coming from those lights. So I do try to take the photos as well as I can, as straight as I can, because it does give the most accurate representation, but nothing's ever going to be perfect unless you want to set every single image up on a tripod, have a little marker, and be really super specific. And honestly, this is just a whole lot easier. Get it as close as you can get it into in camera, and then you want to go into Lightroom. You can also do this in Photoshop and Capture One as well. I'm personally using Lightroom because it's just a little bit easier, and because I'm doing so many of these paintings at once, that just works really well. Lightroom's got a good tool for this. So if you noticed, I went over to transform over here on the right, and I went and I clicked guided. And what I'm doing now is I'm trying to be as careful as I can be in selecting those borders. You want to be really, really close, and then there we are. It's corrected the verticals. So I'm gonna go over here. I hit R, which is, crop tool. I make sure that the crop is unlocked. With these being all different sizes, I'm not going to pick one particular aspect ratio because all of them are just slightly different, with some of them being square, some of them being rectangular, and all in different formats. And we want to capture the exact representation of what this portrait is. Now, sometimes people will need them for websites, and we need to have all of them in 5x7 or 8x10 or whatever format. In that case, I would then take and pop it into a white backdrop. But we're not doing that in this one, so here we go. We've got the edges. They look really good. Now, I've synced up my settings pretty much for the most part on all of them, because I do keep the settings pretty similar and try to place the artwork in the same spot, so there's not much need to tweak from there. But you can go one way or the other. I try not to go too much contrast, saturation, anything like that, because it will change the artwork, and we want it to be so close. I do bring down the highlights just a tad, just so we can still see that texture in the paper there. I do bump up the clarity a little bit. You want to be really careful with the clarity, because oh hey, we want it to be clear, but then that looks like garbage. And then you have it down too much and it looks too soft. So I usually stick to right about 13 on that. And I really try not to change it much more from there. I do a little bit of sharpening on here. Sharpening's another one of those that, if you don't have any sharpening, it's fine. It's like that. If you go too much, then it just looks terrible. So, hit it in the middle of the road somewhere, 30 to 40, somewhere in there. That's perfect. But, yeah, this is a beautiful image, and here's what we're looking at now with the finished product. Talk about removing the background from these deckled edge portraits. So the way that I took the photo, now my backdrop wasn't like the cleanest white in the world because I didn't use brand new, but even if I had used brand new paper, it's still going to be where you get some of these shadows, and then also you don't want to brighten up your photo too much because you don't want to lose you know, the detail that's in here. So sometimes the white's not as crisp white as you want, and so I don't stress about it too much because I know I'm going to take care of it afterwards. There's a quick way of doing it. It doesn't always work if your colors are really, really bright, and I'm going to show you why. So I'm going to hit up here. I'm over in my select tool. I'm going up to select subject. I always use the cloud detailed because it is just better. It takes a little bit longer, but it gets a more accurate representation. So it's going to select our subject. And as you see, it did a pretty good job here. Now, one way I could do this is just to go here. You know, I'm on my selection tool. If you see here, I'll pull it up so you can see all the details. It's your quick selection tool. And if you look at the top, there's a plus and a minus, and one takes, one gives. Anyways, so we're just going to go in here and I'm going to manually do that. And you know, you see it gets like the majority of it. Sometimes like the detail with this deckled edge, you won't be able to get every bit, or it'll go overboard like that. If you're not wanting to be super detailed, or if you get a pretty good result the first time, I'm going to show you the quick way, which is just you're going to control click on that while you're in the selection. You need to make sure that you're in a selection tool of some kind, or you won't see that. And you'll see here where it says select inverse. So what that's going to do is select everything that you did not select beforehand. And over here on the side, we have our adjustment layers. I'm going to go to exposure, and if you see, we can pull it and just get rid of all of that, and then it just looks like a nice clean stock photo. It's a different look. Some people might want the shadows, I don't know, but for websites and things like that, this just works better. Now from here, if you notice, there is a black layer over the top. So what you can do, anything that is not included in this selection is black, right? Anything that we adjusted with the exposure, you can't see it on here, but there's a little white border. So all you have to do is go up here with your paintbrush, make sure you're on 100%. You can change your size, you can change the hardness of your brush however you want. So we're just going to go down here with our brush, and as you see, when I paint, it's bringing that edge back. Now, if you accidentally take too much, you know, you can hit Control Z, or you can just go over here, change your paint back to white, and it'll go over it, which is really good if you're going by the edges and you accidentally do a little too much in one spot and you're like, oh, it was so close. You can just go back in with another brush. And sometimes with these edges, you can't really tell how far the edge is going to go until you paint over it, because it's not like an even square like it is, you know, with you know, something that's a hard surface. This is a deckled edge. So, I mean, there's going to be a lot of little areas like right in here where it didn't pick up. And when you're dealing with a lighter colored background on a painting, you know, there are going to be some of those that are going to get picked up. Here we go. I think that's the best of it right there. Again, you can go in more detailed. You can get as detailed as you like, but for what we're doing, I think this is perfect. So there you have it, my whole process. Here are a couple of the completed artworks. Really, really beautiful artwork by Anna Petrenko. I'm going to put some info in her bio below.